Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm back again to make another video about, excuse me, or whatever, I guess. But I thought I would take a glimpse of this moon here. Which I believe is said to be half quarter. I think that's half quarter. I don't think the proper term in astronomy is half moon, even though it's clearly what it is. And I know it's not third quarter because third quarter is what we know is full moon. It might just be half moon. Y'all have to forgive me, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Either way, y'all have to forgive me. There's a very large. There was a van pulling out from across the street, beaming its lights at me, and I'm in the dead middle of this park, and it's midnight. And I kind of woke up from my food coma because my cousin came into town and kind of treated me and my brother. But he should be heading back home first thing, in the morning. This morning, about 8 hours. Y'all have to forgive me if I sound a little puffed out. It's because I actually am. This Memorial Day was real tough on me. And as usual, it's left me broke. Some odd reason, the holidays be up here. One of the reasons why I don't like the holidays, amongst so many other reasons, is that it be fucking with a nigga's money. It's something about these damn cursed ass American holidays that be fucking up a nigga's money. I don't know what that shit is, but all I know is sometime after anytime, just shortly after the holidays, a nigga broke. I ain't got no money for real, We get through with the money I gotta spend for rent, and then these monthly subscriptions that I'm subscribed to. If y'all know what I'm talking about, because I got a lot of subscriptions to coming out of the martial arts world. I think we talked about that in past videos. Because I like to think, even though, again, I just woke up, which ain't saying much because once I'm through here, I'm pretty much going to be going back into bed. I actually came out here in hopes of shooting hoops. I'm really not supposed to be out here because the park closes at 11. But hey, what the city of Denver don't know won't hurt it, right? In fact, I would say this is probably the best time I was just thinking that on the way over here. This is probably the best time to come out here to shoot a little hoops, because sometimes a nigga just want to come and shoot hoops for a little while. It ain't like I be doing a lot. I won't spend 15 minutes. Throw a couple shots in the basket or lay some bricks, and I'm already ready to go. Oh. Oh. But the money that I have to spend monthly on this stuff is for the sake I like to think it's, for the future. And even though I've admittedly been quite, I don't know if it's lackadaisical or lackadaisical. I've been real trifle on these subscriptions as far as not researching and studying. Just been allowing my money to go down the toilet and not really been catching up for real. And it is because of weeks like not this week but last week when we were just busy than a motherfucker due to the Memorial Day load. The nigga just barely be catching up with that stuff. That's it, whether it's Muay Thai, Pencak Silat, Kalari, White Crane, Wing Chun, Ninjutsu, as y'all know, the Screamer. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of pissed off at myself too because now, fortunately, I subscribe to a Bondo channel, right? But lately, I had a lot, and I mean a lot, of mail in my inbox. Almost peaking to 20,000 in the inbox, and that's nothing compared to what was in the others, like promotions and spam. And I spent probably a good hour deleting all that stuff, at least the stuff out of inbox. And what I ended up doing, messing around and doing, was I messed around and deleted a lot of my subscriptions. And I was up here thinking it was sweet because I was like, okay, let me move all my subscriptions, the ones that I was thinking about at the time, to like forums or some other part of my, some other part of my Gmail where it's gonna be safe. And I messed around and deleted my Bondo subscriptions. I messed around and deleted the subscriptions of this dude pretty much teaching online Five Ancestors Fist, as well as Bach May. And I was subscribed to two of Tony Jeffries. If y'all don't know who that is, that's a well-known boxer from the UK. I dare say world-renowned boxer from the UK. I was subscribed to his channel and his stuff, and for whatever reason, my email ain't going through. But somehow I was able to contact the Saya, if you will. That's pretty much like the master in Burmese of the Bondo instructor, and he found my receipt from last year. Because it was actually around this time last year, back in May of last year, that I paid for the Bondo, what was called the Bondo bundle. And for those of you who don't know, Bondo is basically it's pretty much a Burmese version of, I would say, if I had to sum up Bondo in a nutshell, I would pretty much say it's a fusion of classical Burmese, Chinese, and Indian martial arts. Like, there's a lot of kung fu in it, there's a lot of yoga in it, but it's a system that's based out of Myanmar. And the odd thing about that is, instead of them wearing classical Chinese kung fu wear, they actually wear gis, like you would see in Japanese martial arts. So you're wearing the kimono, the gi, and of course the belt. And the reason why it came to be And they definitely have their traditional Burmese clothing too. Especially if you study in Myanmar. Is But the reason why that is because apparently at some point, sometime, they they decided to use the belt ranking system, and they got that from apparently they got it from the influence of Judah. So they took, the Bando masters of the old decided to use that belt ranking system. So it's become imperative to me to learn as much of this as I can and preserve it. And having spent $500 on that last year, I would have been pretty PO'd about, facing the fact that I might have to spend another $500 on the Bondo bundle that this year I know for a fact I can't afford. In fact, it was my devotion to martial arts subscriptions last year, because I believe it was last year that I found Shakar Sharif's White Crane, and amongst so many other things. And there was this other the style of Penjak Silat called Silat Buka Lingadakan, I believe. Or is it Linkada? It's either Lingadakan or Linkadan. I want to say the last one was right. Silat Buka Linkadan. That I encountered last year, because last year was the year of the dragon. And I feel like it's because of my devotion to martial arts that the universe kind of rewarded me with actually encountering somebody who just happens to be, and I know we talked about this in videos prior, that how this year being the year of the snake, I encountered somebody on YouTube who, amongst many other martial arts, is teaching online classes, like interactive classes in dragon style kung fu, Lung Ying. Along with that, he teaches like Tai Chi. What else? No, he's pretty up there in Taekwondo. That y'all know, and I think I told y'all about my Taekwondo years, so I kind of left Taekwondo where it stands. So yeah, it's wild that I've been able to train, because I've known of Dragon Style, and I think I told y'all this. I've known of Dragon Style for a good 9 years now, at least since I was 30, probably 29, probably 10. So yeah, probably 10 years I've known of Dragon Style Kung Fu, but not a whole lot of books on it, not in English anyway, or really not. There's really not a lot in Chinese neither. So I figured, in addition to helping put some money in my wallet, putting some money in my wallet, I would engage, go on this course, because and it's so funny. Ever since I was even as young as as a kid, I always felt this destiny that I had with I guess you can say Bushido, the way the way of the warrior. I dare say the Chinese equivalent is called like Wu Li. I think something to that effect. I dare call it. I dare call it Jiang Hu, which means apparently it means rivers and streams. Y'all probably wondering why I'm laughing at such a. It's the connotation of Jiang Hu, because that's not necessarily the way of the warrior. It's more so the way of like the kind of the underworld in Chinese society, and part of that underworld being, a bunch of kung fu masters who go out of their way to preserve and a lot of times even steal some of the most ancient and the most secret of secrets of martial arts, things that most people just don't know for real, and things that aren't available to our immediate public, as I knew as a kid, because stuff like this isn't commercialized, like. And I guess you can kind of say I get it, because a lot of these martial arts instructors, they're really there just to make a profit. They don't care if you go home safe and in one piece. Not so much to the extent that they're willing to train you in something like Kali, so that at the very least you understand the mechanisms of the knife, the way it moves, the angles, the dance, the footwork. No, they'll tell you to get out there and kick your knife wielding assailant in the face, or block his incoming stab. Like, yeah, like that's gonna work. Hell, I was just looking at some today about some woman in Aurora getting mugged because they do that. I am in that part of the world where they be on that weird ass shit. It's kind of a culture it kind of is, yeah. It's kind of a culture shock being in the part of the world where, you know, because it's definitely weirdos like that in Memphis, but the way ninjas be running and gunning, it ain't every day you just gonna hear about some ninja just rolling up. Now they'll mess with some little girls, like I said. You got weirdos like that, but I mean, like, for dudes to be rolling up, grabbing up on some grown ass woman, that's kind of unheard of back where I'm from. But it's like out here, it's a thing. Like, that's kind of what happens. You hear stories about women jogging in the park, and then some weirdo just coming up to them and just grabbing on their ass or something. But anyway, she was talking about how, like, about 30 years ago when she was like a teenager, how she used to practice Krav Maga or something. So she kind of, I guess you can say, her mind kind of went back to those lessons, and she managed to, escape her assailant. Now, with that said, the way Denver is structured, and this is kind of how a city fucks itself, right? Because here's our predicament. You would think a city like this, I could be rolling in the cash, having practiced what I have practiced and what I still am practicing, along with the new things that I've been practicing. The newly discovered things, like I said, like white crane, dragon, southern praying mantis, all that. All that aside, what I've been practicing for the past 20 years. So while I don't have a black belt in my system that I've been practicing for 20 years, I most definitely have the knowledge, the experience, the know-it-all to acquire, to test for my black belt, or my first dan, if you will. At least on the Bujinkan's curriculum. And you add that with Penjak Silat, you add that with MMA. Krav Maga, not so much. Even though, I'm subscribed to a Panatakan channel. And, part of that section, they have Krav Maga. I don't put too much stock in Krav Maga, to be honest with you, because I'm like, I don't know what y'all learning that, I couldn't learn in Panantukan or Muay Thai. I don't know. But it's crazy, for years I always saw myself as a student, and it wasn't until recently that, it was just recently, rather, that I still saw myself as a student of these arts. Then one day it just kind of dawned on me, right? It kind of, the hell was that? Sorry, y'all, there was some on my camera. It was like this, I don't know the first thing about these damn cameras. I hope it didn't mute me. It was some sunlight looking thing, some bright looking thing. I don't know what that was. But it would be sweet though. I was just thinking it'd be sweet to be able to be in a position to teach in this town. After having done it for so long, like the Nagewaza of judo, the Nagewaza of Ninpo Taijutsu. Because, we have our throws too. But I was thinking, just to get my students on board with the throws of Ninpo Taijutsu, I'd have them doing judo throws first. Then I'd progress to, the jujitsu throws that I've learned over the years. And believe it or not, there is a difference. And jujitsu throws are way worse, way less forgiving. But it's just now been dawning on me, probably since last year, that I've come to the realization, not when I was out there doing those videos on screaming, not when I was doing the videos that I've shown during the Jurus or the Praying Mantis forums, which again is a new martial art. Like I said, I've been knowing of Praying Mantis for the past 5 years now, and I kind of forgot the shit. That's why I had to make a video, or make several videos on it, because I knew I was going to forget. I can't hold all that info in my head. Especially that last form, that last advanced form. But it's just now dawning on me that, and Sensei called this, our Sensei, and by our, I'm talking about me and my frat brothers, if you will, of this little ninja cult that we were part of. And I say that loosely. We weren't no damn cult. But I would say we were part of I treat it like almost like a fraternity. Without mind you, without all the weird stuff that goes on in the fraternities. Because we wasn't doing none of that stuff that be going on in fraternities. Like them Greek fraternities. We weren't doing none of that stuff. So don't take me for face value when I say that, when I call it a cult. Now, what I get set up might be a cult. but it's gonna be a knowledge cult, a cult of just martial arts knowledge. It ain't gonna be no Jim Jones. It ain't gonna be no Jim Jones cult. It ain't gonna be no cult where I remember one time Sensei. I remember what. I remember one time Sensei told us, "Look, when you guys get out here, because and I believe he genuinely wanted us to pursue this art to the point where we do teach it. But one thing that he asked us to do is when we get certified and we're out there teaching ninjutsu and whatnot, what he asked us to do is not have a picture of him with this big cheese smile on his face. And it was the way he smiled that was funny as hell. Obviously, I can't show you here, and y'all know my rules. I don't show my face anyway. After all, I am a ninja. Or you think I'd be wearing the bandanas and the mask and shit? It ain't because I'm just so coy to show y'all my how handsome I am, apparently. No, I'm a shadow. Like I said, the fact that I got out there and did those videos and put my fat ass out there doing those forums, like I said, that was for my benefit, because I kind of broke my own rules. But I figured, at the very least, I can, be undercover and, either wear them bandanas or wear the winter gear to cover my face. But I never thought the day would actually come that I would actually end up being a master in at least some of these arts. And I'm here to tell y'all that day is here. And Sensei told us that some 20 years ago when he trained us up in Eskrima and trained us up in in our Bojutsu system, which is basically Kukushinden Ryu Bojutsu. And he was already, like he told us, he was already giving us black belt knowledge about the stuff. I mean, by stuff, I mean the Bujinkan curriculum, the Ninpo Taijutsu curriculum. It's so crazy to me how, 20 years have flown by just like that already. Just like that. And what I've been doing in those past 20 years, since I left Memphis, and then, I finally left Memphis to go on my journey. And it's so crazy too, right? Because by the time I left Memphis, that was 2017. So that was just a little over 10 years or so. But now that it's 2025, we're right at the 20th year now. And that to me is crazy. It went from almost 10 years to pretty much 20 years, within a matter of 8 years since I've been out here in Colorado. And in fact, it hasn't even been a full 8 years since I've been out here in Colorado. It's been 7 years that I've been out here. And just carrying the traditions of, what I had at hand, what I had available, which is basically the nitty gritties of, surviving a street fight. That's what my martial art techniques were based off of. That's why, I invested so much in Kali as well as MMA. And by MMA, I don't necessarily mean a hodgepodge, because my whole thing when it comes to MMA is maybe being a jack of all trades but a master of a few. And one of the arts that I go out of my way to master is boxing. Because we weren't necessarily Muay Thai specialists, to say the least, but we did do boxing. and I went on to learn as much about boxing as I could. And I'm here to tell you, I still don't know everything, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so pissed off about losing access to Tony Jeffrey's channel, because he had two separate channels or two separate online courses under which I was studying, and I messed around and deleted the link, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to retrieve it the way I was able to retrieve my my Bondo bundle and my videos that I got from what's his name? I think his name's Sensei Russ Smith out of somewhere down in Florida. hmm And that's another thing that trips me out too, is the fact that, I'm studying under a man whose name is very much similar to my sensei, because my sensei's first name was Russell, but he was under Bujinkan, which y'all know is, you know, the ninja clan, pretty much, under uh, Masaki Hatsumi. And now, the lessons that I'm getting in Bak Mei and Fujian Five Ancestors Fist are coming from Russ Smith of Burinkan, a completely different system. But I was just thinking, the years that I spent, the years that I devoted to this cause, because I like to think I'm not all that clever. I got my skills, I got my talents, and that's all I got. Just like, no differently than the plumber, the mechanic. Basically, you're one-trick ponies. I genuinely like to think, despite as much as I've delved into, the martial arts, the language arts, the culinary arts, and I dare say the STEM arts, if you will, if you can call them arts. Uh, I'm still a jack of many trades, but a master of only a few. Because you take that away, I mean, that's really all I got, for real. It ain't like I can sing or dance or play. It ain't like I can join the NBA and be out here. Yeah, it ain't like I got the option of doing that. An old timer like me, it ain't like I'm a bodybuilder who's gonna be up there competing once I, affect the 525-pound bench press. Because by the time I get to that level, I'll be so big and fat. And old. It won't even be worth it. So with that said, I mean, Colorado has made it abundantly clear to me that I'm really here just to basically to finish what I started, type shit. That's really what it boils down to. It goes back to me, basically settling scores with the past, and as well as finishing what I started. Since what I call the downfall of Memphis. Because I saw it firsthand as far as what Memphis was and what it is now. Because my cousin coming over here is literally about the same age that I am. He's just older than me by a couple of months, and he was just telling me about how back in our time there was this little, and a lot of y'all, I know a lot of y'all don't know nothing about this. There was this what we call the kid zone, basically called Discovery Zone, and how he was just talking about how fun it was. And it's crazy after so many years since you know what we call DZ. I still remember, and y'all can probably find it, commercials of it on the tube. And the fact that it's shut down in like 97. The vivid memories that I have was like the fact that it had all those jumping things and whatnot. And it's crazy too, because it's almost like, in a very strange way, Discovery Zone was almost like a ninja center for kids. It was just like before this whole Ninja Warrior thing, because I know Ninja Warrior popped up probably like back in, like, I remember too, Ninja Warrior being like a thing that popped up back in the 2000s, like 2007 type deal. Yeah. Hey, y'all forgive me. I was looking at some. Uh, so it was almost like an elementary, ninja training camp for kids, because they had all that stuff in there, like they had the ballroom where kids could just jump into a sack full of balls, like you see at Chuck E. Cheese. But for the most part, it was like shit that you would climb on. It was like styrofoam type stuff, like the kids to basically jump up and down and all over the stuff. Like to get all the all the hyperness out of a kid's system type of deal. Well, it's crazy. I still remember I remember the food they sold, and I specifically, and y'all forgive me for sounding kind of gross, but I remember the puke smell that would always be in the cafeteria area. So it'd be food, drink, and the smell of throw up some damn where. And needless to say, I found that pretty gross. And now that I'm on the subject, I was telling my cousin about all the, because we went to this today. We went to this place called One Up Arcade that they have out here in Denver, which is pretty much, I dare say it's pretty much a place for 80s and 90s kids now that we all grown up and shit, because it was like, obviously you have to be 21 and up to get in because they sell drinks, but it was literally like the same arcade games that we saw when we was little kids in places like Discovery Zone, Chuck E. Cheese, and all these other places that we had when we were little kids. And I was just thinking of another place called Celebration Station over on pretty much over on Summer and Sycamore View. It used to be over there. Now Southwest been over there since forever, which is just a community college. And I was just telling my cousin about, I was thinking about, what really did Memphis in, as far as why Memphis is such a dangerous place, because Memphis wasn't even close to being as dangerous as it is now. And I honestly think, there's a real reason for that, or at least one reason for that. One main reason, because it's not I wouldn't say it's the main reason, but it definitely is part of the equation as to why Memphis is so bad. I honestly believe the reason why Memphis is so bad is because now it's so boring. Because back in the day, we had DZ, Discovery Zone. As kids, we had Chuck E. Cheese, but when you're a big kid, you don't really want to go to Chuck E. Cheese like that. That's for like little kids. Little kids go to Chuck E. Cheese. Big kids go to, like I said, places like Celebration Station, Putt Putt, Bogies, Adventure River, and they got rid of all that. The only thing that I stated that's left after all these years that they still have in Memphis now is Putt Putt. Only thing, a golf course, which is cool, and it's still cool for the kids and whatnot. But at the end of the day, Putt Putt was an understatement compared to what Celebration Station had, because they almost had the same thing. But what Putt Putt didn't have is a larger arcade. Because Celebration Station had an upstairs, a downstairs full of arcade games, as well as I believe it had. Damn, these goddamn motorcycles and shit, man. The city is so damn boisterous, even at this time of the night. Can't stand that shit. But I have no doubt that Celebration Station had almost the same shit Putt Putt had, and some more shit, because it had way more. Oh yeah, then there was Laser Quest. Forgot about that one, because I remember Q Zone. Wow, I remember this one arcade spot that was actually over by American Way, but I forget the name of it. But anyway, yeah, I'll go ahead and get off that tangent, because all I'm saying is what's left of Memphis as far as entertainment. And I feel sorry for the YNs of today, because while y'all are here running and gunning, thinking that's what it means to be a kid, and you investing your whole childhood on spinning the block on the ops. And bro, that's sad, bro. That's pretty fucked up if you ask me. But you know how young niggas are, you can't tell them. But I'm like, bro, you sitting up here looking at me like I'm some old nigga. I'd be like, if I was running into these YNs, if I could say anything to the YNs, I'd be like, man, why you sitting up here looking at me like I'm some old man, like the time that I grew up in wasn't lit like that, bro. Just look at the. Hold on, y'all. This is some bullshit. Folks be doing the most at this time of the day. God damn, man. You up here having sirens and shit. But bro, here's the thing. So we go to this, you know what I'm saying? We go to this one-up arcade, right? And like I said, it's pretty much, and the people in there, I can pretty much tell, are basically our age. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody in there was 30 and up. Like 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, pretty much. It didn't look like, because the 20-year-old today was born in 2005, and I've been thinking about this lately too. The 25-year-old today was born in 2000. That motherfucker is damn near 30 years old. So when I went up in there, right, and we got our little drinks and whatnot, I'm up in here looking at arcade games that I literally haven't seen since a lot of those arcade games, I literally haven't seen since I've been up in one of these arcade games back in Memphis, some damn near pretty much 30 years ago. Since Chuck E. Cheese, since Celebration Station. I mean, they had Mortal Kombat 2. They had one of my cousin's favorite games, because he's a sportsman. NBA Jam. They had Blitz. I'm like, bro, I haven't seen these games in years, bro. And if you juxtapose the youth of today with the youth of the 90s and the 2000s, that being us millennials, I'm here to tell you, bro, because matter of fact, yeah, Hassan Campbell, that nigga, he basically one of his most recent videos that he made was him. Now just imagine a man damn near 50 years old, pretty much a middle-aged man, going into a toy store, going into the toy section anyway, because I know like Toys R Us ain't really a thing. I don't know too many toy stores, and that's another thing that got shut down back in the 2010s. Toys R Us. I feel sorry for you YNs, bro. I really do. Much as I can't stand y'all, much as I go out of my way to avoid y'all, I low-key pity y'all. Dead ass. Because a lot of y'all thinking it's cool to be out here in these streets, running and gunning, doing what the powers that be want you to do, and then getting locked the fuck up for it. Because, America's trying to stay a superpower, and one of the ways that they effectively remain a superpower is by having your black ass locked up in the penal system doing cheap labor. And then on top of that, what's worse with you YNs is that y'all never really got to experience a childhood. I'm talking about going to Six Flags, going to SeaWorld, even though I've never been to SeaWorld. But, I made up for that, because I can't tell y'all how many times I've been to Six Flags in two different locations, the one in St. Louis as well as the one in Atlanta. And then you had all the places for kids, bro, in Memphis, bro. That's what Memphis looked like 30 years ago. It wasn't the war zone that it is today back in 95. Hell no. And you know that because white folks was living where, and you already know they wasn't going to put up with that shit. Because they said it wasn't until like 2000 that the white flight actually took effect in parts of like southeast Memphis, where I'm from. But I really didn't notice it for real until like 2001 or like couple years after. That's when I kind of started to notice what, I would later learn to be called white flight. But Memphis was lit for real. Now, I don't mean lit with bullets. I mean lit with like things to do, at least for a kid. But I was just thinking though, the one thing, and I say, I reference Hassan Campbell because he's talking about like all the years that he spent, being a street, the illest killer on the block, and how he was putting in work, ever since he was basically a YN and being in and out of the prison. Problem is, he forgot to be a kid, which is why he's in the toy section of Target or Walmart or wherever store he was, and he was getting a toy truck. And it wasn't for his kids, most of whom are grown and most of whom are girls anyway. Because I know he ain't trying to raise no tomboys like that. No, that toy was for him. He bought that toy for him. Because, something, and I'll tell you what, man, I may have missed out on some things. I may have missed out on Diddy session, what I call Diddy sessions. Diddy sessions, orgy, sex parties, girlfriend experiences, being in love, being out of love. I may have missed out on those things that pretty much teenagers go through, dealing with members of the opposite sex. Because by the time I was a teenager in the early 2000s, a lot of this stuff was already wrapping up. Adventure River, gone. DZ, gone, which I wouldn't want to go anyway as a 15, 16-year-old. Celebration Station, pretty much out the window. Pretty much. All this stuff, all the places that, a preteen or younger would appreciate. But I can tell you this, whatever I missed out on my adolescence and young adulthood, that ain't nowhere near as bad as missing out on childhood. Because, my mother always told me, and I can agree on this, the tragedy of Michael Jackson. And I think a lot of UYNs are headed for that same road. See, I don't play with toys anymore. I mean, I still got my video game systems. I still got a PS2. I'm part of that generation. I still got my PS2 because I like the video games on it. I mean, some people believe in not playing certain video games because it's old and they trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to keep up with new times. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep it old school. And if I see something that's new school, like the PS5 or something that, I'll get onto it. But be honest, when the PS4 was hot, and I finally managed to come out here and actually have the money to get a PS4 as well as a PS3 and a PS2, I only bought one game because I was like, this PS4 is some bullshit. And what I wanted out of the game, was trying to do out of the game, I really couldn't do without like internet access. So I was like, that's some bullshit. So I ended up pawning my PS4. But I don't play with toys anymore. And I remember as a kid, I had a whole gang of toys. I had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had the Jurassic Park action figures. And so did my brother. We had the Star Wars figures, the lightsabers, the Stormtrooper blasters. So we've already gotten all that out of our system. Because y'all know my brother's 9 years younger than me, which pretty much makes him a millennial too. And most of what I got to experience, he's experienced. I'm pretty sure he's been to Celebration Station at least once. I doubt he remembers Adventure River. But a lot of y'all are pretty much going to face the same fate that Michael Jackson did, and y'all not even musicians. See, Michael Jackson kind of had an excuse, not that it mattered, because the fact of the matter is, end of the day, his selfish ass parents, particularly his father, robbed him and his brothers of their childhood, which is why, you know, when Michael Jackson got much older and finally got all the fame and success that he did, he kind of, that's where, he bought, that explains why, he had Neverland, which was his own amusement park, but by which you had the rides, you had the, and all this other stuff, the balloons, the animals, like the zoo. He had all that to make up for his lost childhood. And this man, I imagine by the time he established all that, he was well into his 30s, probably even 40s, doing this stuff. And one of the biggest fears that I would think a man should have, even though many of us don't have, is the fate of becoming a man-child. Somebody who has progressed into age chronologically, but still pretty much has the mentality of a child. Basically, a 12-year-old boy trapped in a 36-year-old man's body, if not younger than that. And I often wonder to myself, or I used to anyway. I kind of stopped doing it because I figured I ain't no fucking man-child. I kind of had to look deep into, what a true, and there have been things that I've run into that kind of confirm that I'm not a man-child. Because one, like I said, I had a childhood. And whatever other bullshit that I got to miss out on due to my weird experiences with members of the opposite sex and my weird experiences with people, period, at least I had a motherfucking childhood. So I'm good on Six Flags. I'm good, and I would love to go to a SeaWorld. My thing is water parks, especially with summer coming up. And I was telling my cousin that they got this water park out here that basically operates, where they have this side on, because it's pretty much half amusement park, half water park. Or so one side there's rides and stuff, and that goes on until like that pretty much. That's probably all year, I think anyway. But the water park obviously just stays open until the summer months. But and I was telling them about this mechanical pool that they have, that it operates the same exact way that the mechanical wave at Adventure River had. And I've only been to Elitch Gardens once, and I definitely plan on going this year, because lately I kind of had, my excuse over the years has been, I'm not going to go to Elitch Gardens because, the summer pools, the city's going to be opening up the pools in a couple of weeks. So I've been using that to, just pay a little measly $3 just so I can hop in the pool. That ain't nothing. But, since I've been getting my body game going, being a weightlifter and all, I was thinking I'd, test these guns, see what these guns can do. And in other parts of the city now, because body game is real. I was telling my cousin, body game is real, bro. It really is real. And I was telling him, it ain't like I got a six-pack of washboard abs. All I did was just work on my upper body a little bit, so I can be more effective and get stronger on the bench press. Y'all know how anal I am about bench press. Besides that, I don't be, it ain't like I'm a whole bodybuilder somewhere. I'm up here doing squats and up here doing, just being a real bodybuilder for real. Because I ain't even really trying to put that much muscle on the rest of my body for real. I just want, I just want to affect, an effective bench press, which to me is anywhere from 400 to 500 pounds. And as of yet, I still have yet to press 300 or 305 anyway. I'm at 295 now. But yeah, I was telling him how at Elitch Gardens, so it was a real, and when I went to Elitch Gardens about, that was like the summer of 2018, or it was probably 2019, either or, because it's been a good minute. Then, we did have the pandemic type shit too, so that kind of fucked everything up. So this was definitely before the pandemic. It was like, it was like 28, and probably my first year, which was 2018 here, or 2019. But they had the same exact, I was telling them how they had the same mechanical wave pool where they had the buzzer go off, and as soon as you hear the loud buzzer go off, buzzer go off, that's when, you had the same mechanical pool waves rushing and going back and forth. And I was like, bro, when I experienced that, bro, back in 2018, it was like, or 2019, whichever one, it was like a blast from the past, bro. It literally took me back to like 1996, 1997, which was the last year of Adventure River, way back when I was basically a preteen. But the one thing I have yet to tell y'all, the one thing that really killed Memphis, the main thing that killed Memphis, I don't think it was so much as Discovery Zone, which was bad. I don't think it was so much as bogeys, which was bad. Because, Cordova got to have some, right? Some. And I know putt-putts in Bartlett. And plus, Bartlett also had, Celebration Station, which was bad, them getting rid of that. Or Q-Zone, which was bad, them getting rid of that. Because I think that was actually on that, which was a laser tag, which is also Laser Quest they got rid of on Poplar and Highland, which was bad. But what really killed Memphis, what genuinely killed Memphis, was when they got rid of Liberty Land. When they got rid of Liberty Land, historical amusement park. I'm talking about amusement parks that my parents, specifically my mother and her sisters, and her folks, they had when they was kids. I'm talking about historical stuff like the Zip and Pippin. And there's this other ride, I want to say, no, it wasn't the Ninja. I forget the name of it. It wasn't the Ninja, but it was very similar to the Ninja, because the Ninja's at Six Flags. They tore all that down at the Mid-South Fairgrounds. And in addition to that, like that wasn't bad enough, they relocated the Mid-South Fair from the Mid-Fairgrounds to South Haven. Yeah, that did. I genuinely believe that was part of, amongst so many other things, that did Memphis in. Because prior to, which happened literally 20 years ago, back in 2005, and I remember that specifically because 2005 was the last year that I went to the Mid-South Fair in Memphis. Not South Haven, Memphis. Then, you fast forward a couple years later, about 8 years later in 2013, that's when, they got this little bullshit Delta Fair type of deal going on at the Agri Center. And I'm like, this shit pales in comparison to what we had at the Mid-South Fairgrounds with Liberty Land and the Mid-South Fair. This ain't nothing. And it wasn't enough, because when Ninjas was over there, it was all kinds of fights, even shootouts. Because I think they still do have the Delta Fair, I think. Because over the years, it'd be like, the ops would be sliding through and they'd be up there basically getting into it. We didn't have them problems back in the Liberty Land days. Back when me and my cousin were little kids and his mother would take us to Liberty Land. And it's crazy, like, during the fall months. And it's crazy because I have vivid memories of what that looked like. I still remember that. Of my cousin's mother, my auntie, taking us to Liberty Land. And that's something that was literally robbed of you ninjas. Y'all were robbed, bro. You were robbed of your childhood, bro. So you feel sorry for me because I'm an old head? No, I feel sorry for you because you basically a child soldier for real. You ain't no different or better than some kid in Senegal, right? Or Burkina Faso, who knows nothing about being a kid, just up here mining for blood diamonds and going into villages, killing a whole bunch of folks, like we saw in that movie Beast of No Nation. Only thing is, player, you ain't in Africa, you in America, and they looking to lock your ass up. It's sad, man. And let's not forget the board games that we had in the 90s too. See, I genuinely believe that a lot of my craftiness, my ability to think and analyze and, pinpoint situations, it came from having a childhood. It didn't come from STEM books. It didn't come from calculus books, algebra books, differential equation books. No, it came from the board games that we had back in the day, the Connect Fours, the mouse traps, Sonic the Hedgehog, like all the countless video games and video game systems that we had back in the day. Y'all motherfuckers don't have that. And see, you have a man who's pretty much, 10 years older than me, pretty much, talking about his war stories, talking about how bad he was and how he's been in and out of prison, beating murder charges. And now that he done slowed up and slowed down, like I said, he's in the toy section of Target getting toys for himself at almost 50 years old. That's what the streets do to y'all. If nothing else, if you even so much as manage to survive the bullets, the shots, all the viciousness that comes with it, here you gonna find yourself a middle-aged man trying to make up for your childhood over the lost years, bro. And that's bro, to me, that's terrible. That is a terrible thing. That is a very terrible thing. I dare say that's some shit I don't even wish on my worst enemy, bro. I'll miss out on the dates in a city full of garbage ass females that's running around burning and itching anyway. I'll miss out on that. No, y'all can have that. Cause it ain't like it's a whole gang of men out here running through booty like that anyway. I mean, that's probably every man's fantasy. I mean, who doesn't want to just run through booty with no consequences? What healthy heterosexual man male doesn't want to do that. But that's not reality for real. So, I can be, sometimes I can be sour about my past as far as my education. But I kind of have to admit, part of that comes with my pride, the pride of just wanting to feel smart, I guess. Because when I came into the education system, or should I say the miseducation system, I started off pretty decent. Now, given that I was constantly on honor roll and principals list, but there were just some roadblocks. And I think I talked about this too, about my issue with word problems and how I just couldn't. It was almost like when it came to word problems and trying to extrapolate information and making some sort of math equation out of it. My whole mind, when it came to math, my whole mind was like 3 plus 4. That's the way math should be. 3 plus 4 is 7. It shouldn't be if Johnny has 3 apples and gives his 3 apples to Sally, who has 4 apples. How many apples does Sally have? My mind wasn't on that. So, for years, the whole education thing made me feel some type of way. That's why, to this day, like I said, because that's probably what, I missed, the honor societies that I missed out on because my GPA wasn't high enough, or because I transferred to another school because I was trying to get away from some old ghetto fabulous school. So I know, bro, like being fucked off on anything, basically being had on a corrupt ass education system that had no interest in educating my black ass, and having to go on a DIY autodidact self-taught institution of higher learning. I already know. I know. Nigga should have been had his master's, doctorate, all that shit before I hit 30. And I barely got up out of there with a bachelor's degree by the time I was 30. And I was just in the liberal arts. In the foreign languages, which to this day have done me no justice. And I'm not waiting for it to do me no justice as far as the the system, like as far as the job market. I figured I might as well just do bad by myself, for real, when it comes to that. But at some point, I'm gonna land my plane with the foreign languages. I'm like, look, I wrote it out. I stuck it out. I did the most when it came to foreign languages. Now I got my little thing going. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna be on some take it or leave it type shit, and move on to bigger and better things. Like I said, with STEM. Now that I'm finally in a position, and have finally been in a position to learn about STEM. That's one of the reasons why I did the most with STEM. That's why I engaged in multiple fields of STEM. Because I was robbed of an opportunity to basically strengthen my mind. And school, failed to do that. So-called school, if you will, failed to do that. And I wasn't no dumbass. I passed every grade, and it wasn't on some No Child Left Behind type shit. I think I told y'all I got inducted in, at least one branch of honor society, albeit it was junior honor society. So I like to think, I'm somewhat clever. I may not be no highfalutin Ivy League student, but I like to think I'm somewhat clever. But one thing so even with me missing out on the young man's adventures of, chasing booty and having booty chase me and all that other stuff, I can say this much: at least I'd miss out on, no childhood, because hey, even Stella get her groove, get my groove on, and I hear being a man in my 40s, as I'm, making my way to 40, is the best time to do that shit. Not necessarily a nigga in his 20s. No, it's like a man's peak. A man hits his peak, apparently, at our time. Like it really starts, and it really starts for a nigga in his 30s, but when he hits 40, that's when he really is at his peak. Because our value goes up as men. Especially if we've been building. With that said, we got to be building. We got to be, working on something, working on our crafts, so that our work speaks for ourselves. That's the way it should be. Now, how the efficacy of that in libtard goofy butt land, results may vary depending on what part of the world you are. Because, New Breed actually said something that really stuck out to me, right? Now that I'm on the subject. Because I know I went from martial arts to, talking about the importance of, having a childhood, which, helps build the imagination of what, other things. Definitely, it definitely has its skills, bro. There's a reason why, children play, have things like, because the fact that I'm in a fucking park right now, or fucking playground, with swings, and they got this other thing, there's a reason for that shit. Ain't like we just have children and then we just, because it's not like we should be like Tiger Mom and Dragon Dads, like they have what you see in most of Asian cultures, where they just, as soon as they're born. Because it's crazy how the polar opposite, what you'll find in the black community, which celebrates ignorance, glorifies ignorance and stupidity, in Asian cultures, it's the polar opposite. It's like almost as soon as they come out the womb, they got them studying Chinese characters. They got them studying all different types of math, learning the musical instrument, just doing the most for real. So I kind of had to get over my sourness about, the whole thing, because, the struggles that I had to face to get to that level, somewhat of that level of sin. But New Breed said something that stuck out in one of his podcasts. He talked about a bottle of water, and how, depending on where you are, how a bottle of water being a very valuable thing, because without water, there's no life. Only in a functional society, even hell, a semi-functional society, would a bottle of water be seen as a trivial thing. And water is one of the most essential things for our being. Not just for drinking, because we need water, like I said, for our own hydration, so we ain't falling out from thirst, dehydration. We need water to create our food. We need water to wash our butts. So yeah, water is a very quintessential thing on this planet. And he was talking about how, a bottle of water, depending on where you are in the world, like say at a grocery store, it might be, well, once upon a time it was $1. I'm pretty sure it's well over $2 now. So it'll be $2, as as our current state of economy is now, at a grocery store. But that same bottle of water at a gas station will probably be about $3, $4, maybe even $5. And on an airplane, that same bottle of water will be damn near $10. So it really behooves an individual such as myself to basically dictate my worth and determine where that worth is being inputted, if you will, for lack of better words. Because here I was, probably a whole gym with the languages at the very least, right? Because I got languages and STEM. I just got to get, again, I get certified, just like I got to get certified in these martial arts I've been doing the past 20 years. I got to get certified in the STEM majors. So here I am, already being able to speak some 40 plus languages down there in Memphis. Couldn't do nothing with it. It was my location. It was my location. It was almost like I was bringing a whole different kind of soil that was just too rich for that accursed Memphis soil. I come out here. Now, foreign language thing remains to be seen as far as whether or not it's worth a damn, right? But I can tell you this, it's hella foreigners in Denver. Hella Vietnamese, hella Russians. The people whose languages I've been speaking for many years. And part of my escaping the rat race is dependent on my foreign language ability to, offer translation services, almost like being a third party for the courts. So in that way, I don't even have to worry about, being hired on. I can just serve as a third party. And like I said, I've been doing this craft for well over 20 years. So with any luck, I just may find success in that here in Colorado, which I sincerely hope does happen. Because, a crazy thing about Colorado is even with all these Latinos out here, the ones who do speak English, a lot of them don't even speak Spanish like that for real. And of course, the ones who do speak Spanish don't speak English. And, it just goes to show you, like, it just takes me back to all the bullshit that I experienced back in Memphis, knowing I speak fluent Spanish. And I couldn't do nothing with them ninjas. Couldn't do nothing down there. And how well do I know Spanish? Well enough to have a goddamn degree in it. Because at the very least, at least I got that. We're talking about a language I've been speaking since 2002. A language I took up back in the 10th grade. And was fluent in it by the time I had graduated high school. Because I just picked up on it. But a lot of us FBAs have been talking about this whole and I always knew the day was going to come that I was going to find out. I knowing nothing about Latin American history, that it was going to be some goofy, off the wall, oddball type shit about the history of these folks south of the border and their black population and how they view us. And lo and behold, here we are learning about the long history about placage and how and where black folks, including Afro-Latinos, basically stand in the vast overwhelming majority of Latin American society. Lo and behold, I knew the day was coming. I knew in my heart of hearts that day was going to come. But to all the racist ass Latinos out there, you can be as racist as you want to towards the black man. At the end of the day, this pinche mayate has a degree in your language and has been speaking your language a lot longer than a lot of y'all have even been alive. And it's just something about these people who just cannot and will not accept the fact, no aceptarán el hecho que los pinche mayates hablan español. No pueden aceptarlo. And I'm not, and and that's another, a mantra that I have. I have a mantra based off the experiences that I've had over the years of learning Japanese, Mandarin Chinese, Lithuanian, Persian, Russian, as well as Spanish, Ukrainian. The list goes on and on. It is not my job to convince the world that I speak their language. Because 9 times out of 10, whoever it is some racist asshole who's got some goofy ass fucked up history with black folks anyway, like the Arabs. Who again, another culture who's real funny style with their black population. Real funny style. You ain't got a leg to stand on with these folks. I mean, you really think, and a language that I don't speak nearly as well as I do Spanish, you think I'm going to be wasting my time convincing some racist ass Arabs that I speak their language? Or am I just not going to deal with them at all? And like I said, when it comes to that translation service, y'all just going to have to come to me and basically hope for the best that I can translate whatever it is you got to say in Arabic to English. Because I'm like, I'll tell you this, bro. I may not be no Arab scholar or Arabic scholar, but I'm probably your best bet. I'm willing. I guarantee, goddamn, because again, I live in a part of the world where you got all these Latinos, but don't nobody really speak Spanish for real. And then, because my brother speaks, and he runs into these folks. By these folks, I'm really talking about like these immigrants from Venezuela, as well as what's been here, like particularly with the Mexican population. And he'll talk about like he's seen them write out stuff, and he'll be like talking about how it's all misspelled, and I see it too. Like I'll be on the trains, and it'll be these translation like they'll have like text written out in Spanish, and it's shit that it's just all kinds of wrong. And even if it is correct, I'm like, they don't say it like that anyway. They don't say that. It should be all having all kinds of grammatical errors and all kinds of wrong. Just wrong. So take it from me, bro. And I don't think a whole lot of y'all have a lot of options. So y'all, I mean, it's a strange thing to me too, because like I said, we are hated of the world as black folks, being that we're the true Israelites, right? But my thing is this: if you got something going on and you need a mediator, you gonna have to find a way to get over your little anti-black racism, because you just got it because you think so and so inferior. I'm like, I'm inferior, but I'm translating for you. I can't be that inferior because I got the crossover between English and Spanish, English and Arabic, English and Japanese, English and German, English and Italian. I mean, the list goes on and on. I can do this shit in my sleep, while you can only think and process your thoughts in French, in Arabic, in Spanish, in Russian, in that only. And again, you in the United States of America. So yeah, you kind of shit out of luck, my dude. Because I say it all the time. As much as the US of A doesn't like foreigners, doesn't like foreign languages, The United States, along with probably like the UK, probably is the only country in the world that offers as much translation services as we do. We pretty much offer translation services for damn near all the languages of the world in some way, in some shape, form, or fashion. We have translation services in languages from basically Micronesia, like Tahitian, Hawaiian, the Polynesian languages, Samoan, Chuukese, languages that I don't know and ain't trying to learn because I don't give a damn. Like, I've already exhausted myself with the 52 languages. I've exhausted myself with that shit. I'm kind of teetering over to see, what all I can, squeeze in my head as far as the African languages. But when it came to these European and Asian languages, I did the most. And I'm like, at this point, all I'm doing now is just squeezing in the remainder of African and Middle Eastern languages, and I'm through. I mean, I'm not Lao Shu or Moses McCormick. Their brother knew 67 languages. The powers that be took him out. I call myself revisiting Tibetan because I learned, and that's one thing I will do when it comes to foreign languages. I'll kind of dabble in it, but I won't really just learn it like intensely. Man, I've been doing that shit for years. That's kind of what I've been doing. I've been doing that with Russian for years, Arabic for years, Hungarian. I mean, it's just now that I've been hankering down and just, pretty much been drilling into stuff. But I got that foundation. So for anyone to sit up here and say that I can't speak Hungarian or mutter at least anything in Hungarian, I'm like, bro, you just coming with an agenda. You just can't accept reality. Like that you're in the presence of a damn polyglot. I mean, this is what I do. I mean, I know you trying to, come with your little slumming narrative and take me for some typical drug dealing, basketball playing, fried chicken and watermelon shinebone, but no, like, bro, I do this shit. I know your language. I know your next door neighbor's language. I know their next door neighbor's language, bro. I do this shit. This is what I do. And I dare say I've been like that my whole damn life. I've always been like that. I always had a gift for phonetics. It comes as natural as breathing. And another sad thing, I dare say, like, as much as you YNs, I wouldn't want to be. I just wouldn't, bro. If being a 20-something-year-old of today means living the kind of conditions, because it was bad at my time. It was bad, going through the struggle and whatnot. Because that was all fun, right? I pretty much fucked off my whole 20s being in the struggle. But at least I was building. I was building with the tools I got. I was building the foundation, not just foreign languages, but STEM. But if being a YN of the 2020s means going through what y'all got going on, I'll gladly be an old head, bro. I'll gladly be a nigga in his late 30s, finna turn 40 in a few months, getting ready in the process of enjoying the fruits of my labor. Because I was just thinking, another thing that we had that I'm pretty sure y'all don't have, that you YNs don't have, are the magnetic letters on the refrigerator. Because that's what I was practicing on when I was like 3-4 years old, spelling, words like encyclopedia and transmission on the, not the boast, not the brag. I'm just saying that's where this comes from. Like, I came out the womb, like, phonetically gifted. Because I hate to be the one to say that, a lot of people say that there's no such thing as talent. You just kind of have to build on them. But no, you know, it was actually Iron Mike who said that. But bro, Iron Mike already had he already, as a mesomorph, he already had the body for real. He already had the raw materials to be who we know Iron Mike to be. He already had all that shit. And I'm pretty sure, and no doubt, I have no doubt he put in the hard work, that he was out there doing the most back in the 80s. And that he owes his success to Customato with his peekaboo style, which is ironically enough is the same style that I use because I'm about the same height as Mike Tyson. And I dare say I'm finna be about the same weight too, because people keep saying that Mike Tyson didn't lift no weights. I'm like, bullshit. Because it's kind of up in the air. It's kind of rumor, like, it's kind of all over the place. Because one minute some sources will say that he just did 500 push-ups during his workouts. Yeah, with a physique like that. Yeah, just doing some calisthenics. Hell, Floyd Mayweather has been known to do 1,200 push-ups. We can't compare apples to oranges between a physique like Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather. And I know damn well there's been other sources that Mike Tyson has been rumored to be able to bench press as much as anywhere from 350 to 350 to 450 pounds. And you add that along with his calisthenics workout, that makes a lot more sense to me. Considering Mike Tyson's knockout power. And I know he had big ass legs too, because he definitely worked on his legs. But nah, it ain't no way you gonna tell me that nigga did not. Maybe not on the regular, of course. Maybe not like a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, but no doubt he was able to put 3, if not 4. There's even rumors that by the time Iron Mike was 12, he was pressing 205. I'm like, nigga, that sound like Iron Mike to me. Yeah. But yeah, man. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I really didn't have much to talk about. But so I kind of just, I guess this is kind of one of those tangent rants where I just, start at one point on one focal point and then go someplace else. And most of that being, I know I started off with the martial arts thing and, my plans for the future as far as doing that. Because, if I haven't said it already, like I said, I think Colorado's more so of a place to prepare for the trials and tribulations of being a martial arts instructor versus trying to become a martial arts instructor in a place like this, where damn near everything is sky high. Which is one of the reasons why so many businesses are getting shut down, because they can't afford to keep the lights on. It's hard enough just to keep the lights on at their own house. It's crazy. But I figure if there's some damage that I can do, the least I can do is start up that translation service and, try to work my way, get some money in my pocket, and at some point, even get an actual physical location, be in my own office. Because, not to get on another tangent, but I just recently watched this video that pretty much that pretty much said that, a movie like Boys in the Hood pretty much taught black men how to basically make it out of the hood. And that it was just constantly talking about money and, basically black economics. And one character that I'd like to direct my attention to was Furious Styles. Because Furious Styles, I wouldn't say he was so much of a real estate agent, but he was more like I guess the word is like a commercial estate broker or something like that. He pretty much helped people. Yeah, and that's kind of the scene where, they go out into Compton, and, he explains to the two knuckleheads, his son Trey and Ricky, of course, about gentrification, about what he does for a living, as far as like he helps people get loans so that they can he helps people get loans, particularly black people get loans, so that they can afford to buy houses, because housing has always been a problem in California, especially for black folks. Because me being a black man in the West, it really just goes to just goes to show, given LA's history, not that I live in LA or even California for that matter, but my experience, based on my experiences here in Colorado, just how welcome black folks are in the West, or the lack thereof, I should say. And, using an example like California, it's definitely, something to point out to, much less what we saw in, you know what I'm saying, in that movie Boys in the Hood. So I was kind of thinking along the line of not necessarily being a realtor or an investor, doing real estate, but like I said, me having already a bachelor's degree in the foreign languages, I got that in and of itself, and whatever other credentials I may need, translation credentials, certain tests I might have to take. The fact that I got that bachelor's degree, that is definitely a cornerstone towards, what I'm trying to work towards. Really, probably for the rest of my life. Even with me going back to school to get these doggone degrees in STEM. My whole thing would be, getting the nations on board, especially real enemy nations, because, I did the most when it came to Japanese and the languages of Southeast Asia, but, it's not like I didn't ignore, Arabic, Persian. In fact, these were languages that I kind of had a basis in, either before I started learning the languages of Southeast Asia, or around the time that, because I'm pretty sure it was around the time that, I was studying Vietnamese and Cambodian, that I started to pick up Arabic, and then later after that, Persian, and eventually Hebrew. So, yeah, I think that's all. I think that's all I got to rant about. I'm just basically out here chilling, trying to chillax, and, recover from like the week before last week's, overload. As far as know what I'm saying, as far as, Memorial Day and all. Uh, and like I said, the plans that I have for the future, which, as far as I can tell, is a hodgepodge of basically the things that I've always been passionate towards my entire life, my whole life. Because I was just thinking about that too, like how, you know, I didn't grow up keeping up with basketball, and I played basketball. I played the same sports that my cousin, being a sports fan, a big sports fan, played. But my thing was always martial arts. My thing was always the foreign languages of the world. And then you fast forward some 30 years later, I'm still on that shit. It's like I haven't skipped a beat. So it stands to reason that it fits like a glove to set out to engage in these things in the hopes of making some munties off of it, making a whole career out of it. With any luck, paying off my student loans with it. I mean, that's my foundation. You know, you fast forward so many years ahead into the future, and what all I had to go through, the trials and tribulations I faced in Memphis. But me remaining steadfast, and now I feel like me being here, I feel like I'm in the I'm almost like in this state of limbo. But I'm like, I'll be damned if I'm just gonna stop. And with me being a Scorpio and all, they say that Scorpios make some of the best martial artists out there, because it's just something about martial arts that I just innately understand. Something as crazy as it is as vicious and as violent. And the crazy thing is, I don't even consider myself like a fighter for real. Some people are just born fighters. I don't necessarily consider myself a born fighter, somebody who just get out there. In fact, I can't stand fighting. But do I understand the game, the mechanics of fighting? Yes. And when you can break that down and condition yourself to so you can slow that shit down, you know what I'm saying? That's how you can create a whole martial art out of it. And some people just ain't got the rhythm for it. Like, just like the same way I ain't got the rhythm for basketball, I ain't got the rhythm for skating. I just ain't got the rhythm for that shit. The equilibrium, especially for skating. I was never a skater. I was never a drawer. But I guarantee you that if I had the same kind of scrutiny, the same kind of training that Mike Tyson had as a boxer, and if boxing were a thing like that, in Memphis, which it ain't, because I mean that in and of itself has been shit an upward hill. Like just putting a boxing gym in the hood to keep the little nigglets from blowing each other's brains out. It's been an upward battle, an uphill battle. As much as them niggas love to fight, as much as they love to jack, you'll be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed getting them in an MMA class, much less teaching them eskrima and ninjutsu and kali and all that. Much less boxing. And I mean, I remember even when I first got exposed to it, just how eager I was to learn about boxing, wrestling. Just I wanted to learn it all, for real. So, and I've always been like that. I'm actually I'm actually kind of glad now that I didn't really get to engage in what, cause oh man, this is bad. Cause it's just now that the after effects, cause we already know about boxing with CTE and you know, um, blunt force trauma, repeated blunt force trauma to the head. We know about that now, but which is again why I'm glad I never competed in boxing, and I wouldn't encourage any parent to have their child go through boxing like that, because I'm like, shit, don't expect your kids to live an old man's age. Hell, even if they don't go to the pros, because y'all put them in a career, like I said, to use their head as a punching bag. But so I remember like as a teenager how I wanted to do like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because I was all hyped up on the samurai thing, so I was like, any kind of jiu-jitsu would have been good for me. I didn't care. I still remember like this little sportsplex place that was over by my house, and how they had that going on. And that was actually where, yeah, that place was actually where I met Rampage Jackson for the first time. I know he stay in California now, but back then he was in Memphis. And yeah, well, of course that was during my college years, but I remember like when I was a teenager, I was trying to get involved in it because I was trying to, for years I had been trying to resurrect my martial spirit ever since I left Taekwondo in 2000, or it was either 2000 or 2001 that I left Taekwondo. It was definitely before I had turned 16. Yeah, so instead of going back to Taekwondo, I discovered all these other martial arts like jiu-jitsu and whatnot. And I found, that's when, I got exposed like around 2002 to MMA. And I was trying to do all that. And, I had, you know, my mother for one, because, my dad was overseas, in the Middle East and whatnot. Or was he in the Middle East at that time? No, no, he wasn't in the Middle East then. No, he was just down like in Fort Benning and, other bases down in Georgia and Alabama. Uh, but I definitely remember being hindered from such things, and it made me mad as hell because I wanted to do this, and I don't know if I've met my match yet, somebody who can match my energy and break me in half or whatnot. But of all the nicks and bruises that I have gotten from the martial arts, it hasn't stopped me from going back. And I remember the first time I saw a karate tournament like that, I was like, these people are crazy. I dreaded violence, and I still have an extreme distaste for it to this day. But I love training to do it. I love training. I love training for it, preparing for it. Because I'd be like, as unpleasant as this situation is, at least I know what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, back to BJJ and wrestling. Yeah, a little, just like with boxing, as well as any kind of full contact sport, like whether it's boxing, kickboxing, or even rugby and football, apparently, where all these players are getting CTE from getting their brains rattled. Somebody tell me Denmark isn't real, by the way. Uh, little did we know at the time that the grappling arts were just as dangerous. And, it's just now that on the tube that there are all these videos about Brazilian jiu-jitsu making folks old, like it just wearing their joints out. And I'm like, oh, and wrestling being no different either. If anything, just as worse, because I'd say wrestling is probably just as demanding, if not more demanding, by the way. Because there's this one old school UFC fighter by the name of Don Fry who's literally paralyzed, literally can't move his body, not from all the kicks and punches, even though that probably played a role as well, but it's from the years of wrestling. The years of wrestling that took a toll on his body, and to this day, he can't move. And I'm like, bro, that's crazy. So being a hopeful martial arts instructor, I'm almost glad that, I learned bits and pieces of BJJ and wrestling along the way so that I could eventually, catch up with the skill sets, because these things being online, like like I said, you got BJJ fanatics, you got wrestling fanatics. Like this stuff is online now. You got Colette Wrestling on YouTube. Memberships no more than $5 a month. To subscribe to his members only channel. It's crazy. Like I'm learning Baji Twin on YouTube, because that's another thing. It's about $5 a month, as well as Bato Jitsu, about the same price, about $3, $4, $5 a month. On martial arts that I didn't have access to, like I said, when I was young, but now I got full access to, and I finally have the tools to train it under, and that being more than enough as a martial arts instructor to do just that, instead of, carrying years of just wear and tear on the joints due to hard sparring, due to hard, randori. When it comes to grappling people in the gym, or in the dojo rather. And being fucked up for years after having sustained you know injuries from taekwondo practice from years ago, or judo practice from years ago when you got slammed. And the things that just things that I intend to teach my students, when I put them through the crucible. And with me having the body to do just that, without having to worry about this neck injury that I got, or this spinal injury that I got. Because for some odd reason, I'm thinking back to when Kurt Angle apparently got hurt. He got suplexed and broke his neck. And not just that, like that's another crazy thing of all the things that I did engage in. It's real commonplace, for kids who play any kind of sport to, get some sort of bone break. I never went through that. Never broken a bone. And I definitely had some, Lord knows I definitely had some close calls. Oh, most deaf. And that's amazing to me. All the close calls that I've had as far as breaking bones, or getting my bones broken. Because I remember to this day, like back in 8th grade, we was playing basketball, and how I jumped up to block some dude's shot, and when I came down, I pretty much twisted my ankle. That shit hurt like a motherfucker. I swore my shit was broken, but it wasn't. I remember in Taekwondo class, you know how, they'll have you have your arm extended out, and there was this grown man that I was practicing, I guess, techniques with, and this dude did a whole crescent kick up against my arm, like hit me right in the bicep. My shit was sore. My shit was sore for like shit, bro, my shit was sore for a good, pretty much a whole month. And it hurt like a motherfucker. Still, arm not broken. So that's what I mean when I say, yeah, I've been through the cuts and bruises. And, it's almost like even, I have this tendency to discredit my Taekwondo trainer. But that was probably the most, because, we really didn't spar much in ninjutsu for good reason, too, because, techniques were real dangerous. But, as far as, having a visual of somebody just kicking and punching at you, that was probably the closest thing that I had, even more so than, when I'd spar against, like, other stylists like the karate guys and Muay Thai guys over the years. So, yeah, with that said, I'm gonna leave it at that. Try to shoot a couple of hoops and then go and get back in the sack and prepare for the issues of tomorrow, I guess. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Thought I'd point that out, like make a video about my plans for the future, because like I said, old as I am, I know I'm just getting started. And with my background, it will be an amazing thing having a certification in anything, much less Taekwondo, because I really felt some type of way about not coming this close to getting my black belt in Taekwondo at the time, because that just meant a lot to me as a kid. Whereas now I'm kind of more so into reality-based fighting, and even with Kung Fu styles, certain Kung Fu styles acquiring internal power so that can be applied in a real fight, even if the techniques aren't necessarily up to date. I mean, hey, same thing with Taijutsu. That's why, even with me learning the classical style like Ninpo Taijutsu, my students, just like Sensei had us boxing and wrestling, my students are going to be boxing and wrestling and learning Kali and the Screaming. That's how, that's the answer to how do you keep classical arts relevant, by mixing them with the arts that are modern, or supposedly modern, because they are ancient. Boxing, in fact, boxing and wrestling are some of the oldest martial arts in existence. And those two are the foundation of any martial arts system. Then upon that, you expand with other skills like Iron Palm and, the Wing Chun dummy and Bak Mei and all the other stuff. Bagua, the internal arts. And after all these years, I can finally say that I'm not there, but I'm close. I'm way closer than I was 10 years ago. I'm definitely way closer than I was 20 years ago. Again, with the availability of the internet, it being online, the fact that I can, make videos and post them to, test for rank. I mean, it's to me, it's an age of wonder, because it supersedes physically showing up to a dojo, finding a dojo, physically showing up there and testing for rank there, when you can do that in the comfort of your home now. It's crazy. To me, it's unbelievable. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and click out, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. I'm out.